You better wait and see if you like what I have to say.
From the IIHA point of view, we're very happy with what we've been doing over the last couple of years, particularly with our staff working with the Giants and Ice Hockey Northern Ireland in trying to bring everyone together for cross-border initiatives, because ice hockey isn't about borders. Ice hockey is about everyone working together. It's, as Brian stated to the kids earlier, excuse me, I have a bit of a chest thing. When you play hockey, we're all part of one big team. We're all part of one big family. I think that really hit the nail on the head for me. So, we're very pleased at the way things have been going. Just trying to improve ice hockey on the whole entire island. The Giants and the junior Giants in particular do an amazing job with ice hockey here in Belfast in the north. We're big supporters of them in the Republic and everything that they do. And we certainly strive to reach the levels that the Giants have achieved in ice hockey. So, it's for us to be able to bring someone like Brian Burke here, to be able to speak to everybody, is a great privilege and a great honor for us. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not really going to bore you all with me waffling on, so I think we should really get to the man of the hour. So thank you again all for coming, and I look forward to meeting a lot of you after.
And thank you very much, Aaron. I'd like to welcome for Mr. Brian Burke. Welcome to Belfast. You're very welcome on behalf of myself, David, and the rest of the team. Of course, it's a great honour to have you here tonight, and got a lot of Calgary jerseys and T-shirts out there, the fans. So let's start with that first of all. And President of Hockey Operations. We've heard of GMs, we've head of Hockey Operations. What is the President of Hockey Operations?
First, let me just step back for 1 second. First off, it's my honor to be here tonight. I'm flattered and grateful to be invited to speak. Hopefully I can answer some questions here and then answer your questions. For the Edmonton fans here, I will speak slowly. If I use any big words, if you're an Edmonton fan, raise your hand and we'll explain them. I won't do any complicated mathematical situations for you. I am grateful for the Flames gear in the crowd, so it's great to be here. Thank you. The President of Hockey Operations is a relatively new structure that you see in the NBA with about half a dozen teams, the NFL with a couple teams, Major League Baseball with about a half a dozen teams, hockey with about a half a dozen teams. And basically what this does is if you get a veteran general manager or veteran president of hockey operations, the pool of GMs that you can hire from is much wider, it's much deeper. Because you can hire a young guy and he's not going to make those classic mistakes that really screw up a franchise. So I think you'll see every team in pro sports with a structure like this down the road.
Okay, that's right. You must be pretty pleased with the results from last season as well.
Well, last year we were picked to miss the playoffs. The NHL draft was just held, and there's a pretty exceptional player named Connor McDavid that went first overall to Edmonton. And it was predicted at the start of the season that we would compete in that derby to be the bottom team and have a chance to draft Connor McDavid. Well, we made the playoffs. Mind you, we made it in game 81 out of an 82-game season. But we played Vancouver in the first round, and we were picked to lose that playoff series, and we beat them, and then we lost to a very good Anaheim team. So it was an exciting year. The average NHL team breaks in 2 rookies. We broke in 6. So we're not just excited about what happened last year. We think we're going to build on that this year. I moved to Minnesota when I was 12. And this might encourage your kids that play hockey. I didn't start playing hockey till that next year. So I started as a 13-year-old. And in Canada or Minnesota, you're hopelessly behind at that point. There's only one way you're ever going to make it is if you outwork everybody and if you are a coachable player and don't repeat mistakes. So my 6th year of organized hockey, I was a walk-on freshman at Providence. I ended up being the captain, full scholarship the last 2 years. The Flyers claimed my rights back in 1975. And then after our season ended, we lost in the playoffs. Clarkson spanked us. We got killed on a Tuesday night. And the Flyers, their farm team was in Springfield, Massachusetts at that point. And they asked me to go to Springfield and play 7 games, which I did. I didn't play much, and they didn't play well. The one game that they came to watch me play, the first line right wing got kicked out of the game on the first shift. He got in a fight, and he pulled the guy's hair and got tossed. So I had to play. And I remember they had a defenseman, a great big guy, about 6'6", and everyone said, don't touch him, don't look at him, don't make funny faces at him, don't say a word, he'll kill you. And I got him. He was coming around the net with a puck, and I hit him harder than I ever hit anyone in my life. So after the game, it was the only game I played well, the Flyers decided to sign me. I signed a 2-year contract and played that next year in Maine, in Portland, Maine. We won the Calder Cup, which is the American League Championship. I played a very small part in that. I wasn't very good at that level, and I went back to school. I got my law degree at Harvard. I'm still licensed to practice law in Massachusetts, which is scary. Because I haven't practiced law since 1987, but I could still go back. Ooh, that's bad.
Then you made the move into player agent territory.
I practiced law for 6 years. I ended up representing players, not by design. The first 3 clients I had were guys that I'd played with in the American League. So Frank Bathe, Mike Busniak, guys that you wouldn't remember. But then Pete Peters was our goalie in Maine, won the Vezina Trophy in '83, and he asked me to represent him. And then I had Brett Hull, like Kevin Deneen. I had a whole bunch of guys when I went back on the management side in '87 as the assistant GM in Vancouver. I had a pretty good stable. I had great success in the agent business, but it was never planned that way. I didn't go to law school thinking, oh, I'll represent players. I was the GM in Hartford for 1 season, and the owner and I didn't get along.
You did help them build the team, though, which
Yep.
made to the 1994 Stanley Cup final. If you didn't get along with the owner, I was going to ask you maybe what happened and why did you not stick around to see that call come to fruition?
Because I didn't get along with the owner.
That's fair enough.
And you got to remember the golden rule in pro sports: the people with gold rule. So,
Fair enough. So then eventually you ended up as Executive VP and Director of Hockey Operations at the NHL itself.
yeah.
What did that entail?
I did suspensions mostly. Like I was the guy now that my son actually works for player safety now in the NHL office in New York. And I did suspensions. I negotiated collective bargaining contracts with the players and the officials. I worked on international hockey, which I love. I have a long resume in international hockey. But basically, I was the guy that suspended. You read a guy gets a 5-game suspension, that's what I would do. I'd suspend him for 5 games. So I was the top cop in the NHL.
YouTube.
Well, we had a lockout in 2004-2005 season. We lost the whole season. So when they didn't renew my contract, see, I didn't get fired in Vancouver. They just didn't renew my contract. It felt the same. Economically, it had the same impact. But I spent that next year I worked the World Cup of Hockey for the CBC doing in the studio. And then I did studio commentary on the labor dispute as a lawyer and a former player and former executive. So I kept busy, but basically out of work as a GM for a year. I mean, I knew when I got fired, I wasn't going to work for a year. No one was going to work for a year. So, but thanks for bringing that up.
No problem. I can't win. Yes, before taking the GM role in Anaheim and winning the Stanley Cup in your second year, beating Ottawa 4-1 in the series, must have been a personal highlight despite everything you'd achieved climbing through the ranks up to that point.
Well, what happened in Anaheim was I'd never been out of work before, and it's very humbling when you are. And I'd always said I didn't want to work in Southern California. You know, like the travel's really tough, and there's no seasons there. You know, like I think people would be crazy. It's sunny every day, and some of you are looking at me like, "What's the matter with this guy?"
Yeah, here you see we'd love it to be sunny every day.
But I couldn't stand it. The leaves don't turn. There's no geese flying. There's no seasons. Like Christmas, people are wearing sweaters at Christmas time. You know, your teeth should hurt when at Christmas time when it's so cold. So I had great owners there. We were really fortunate that Brian Murray, who'd been there before I was there, had left a couple special players. I see a Getzlaf sweater up there. He had just drafted Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf. brought Teemu Selanne back. I signed Scott Niedermayer as an unrestricted free agent. And the first year we went to the conference finals, which was critical. That playoff experience is the only reason we were able to win the next year. And then the next year we won the Stanley Cup. But I always say we were fortunate enough to win the Stanley Cup because there's a great deal of skill involved, but there's a lot of luck involved in winning a championship. Staying healthy. And I remember the night before we played, like we knew, and this will sound arrogant, but I'm not an arrogant guy. This is just we were confident in our team. We knew our Stanley Cup was the conference finals. We were playing Detroit. We were confident we could beat. The other conference final was Buffalo and Ottawa. We were confident we could beat either one of those teams. We had to beat Detroit. That was our Stanley Cup. We had a meeting and talked about it. Like, guys, this is the series that we have to win. We can win the next one. We have to win this one. And, you know, we're in Detroit. We won that series 4-2. So game 5 was in Detroit. We're down 1-0. It's late in the game. Scott Niedermayer takes a shot. Nick Lidstrom put his stick down on the ice. It hit his stick and kind of waffled over Dominik Hasek, who was overplaying the puck, as he always does. And it goes in. Now we're in overtime. In overtime, Teemu Selanne makes a great strip. Guy circling the net, Thomas Lilia. Teemu strips him of the puck, and Andy McDonald stripped him of the puck, and Teemu scores. And then we win game 6. So they hit 4 posts that game. So we won 2-1 in overtime, I think it was, or 3-2 in overtime. They hit 4 posts in that game. One of them goes in, we don't get to overtime. So there is some luck involved in it. But like I remember the night before, so we're up 3-1 against Ottawa. It's the night before game 5 in Anaheim. And we're going to close it out the next day. We know that. So I'm tossing and turning, and my wife says, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "What do you think is the matter with you?" "We got a game tomorrow." And she said, "These guys will not let you down. This team will not go back to Ottawa. They're going to do this tomorrow night. You're going to get a ring tomorrow night." And I said, "I believe that. I really believe that." But there's that whole Twilight Zone thing. You know, what if Scott Niedermayer comes up with the flu in the morning? Or what if a guy gets hurt in the warm-up? These things happen. First shift, Chris Pronger separates his shoulder behind the net. Now, they shot him up, and he finished the game. But first shift, he's got a second-degree separation, and he hobbles off with his arm hanging down. I'm going, oh, no, here we go. So it does take some luck. It's a special feeling, obviously, when you're able to do it. I commuted back 2 weekends every month at my expense. So for 11 years, I went from the West Coast back to Boston to spend weekends with my kids every other weekend. And I said to them, the travel's killing me. I can't continue to work here. I don't want to leave. I'm not asking to get out of my contract. I will do my 4 years, and then I'm going to move on. And if I hadn't won you a championship, I don't think I'd be entitled to ask for it, but I did. And so now I'm going to do what's right for my family. They said, "Would you then step upstairs?" So that's how the whole transition moved. I didn't quit. I didn't ask to be let go. They wanted to have someone in the GM chair that was going to be there for a long time. And I went duck hunting for a couple days. When I became a rookie GM, it was 1992. And I was a GM at Hartford. And I thought, okay, am I going to just do this like everybody else does this? Or am I going to paint a blank canvas the way I want it painted? And I decided I'm going to do it with 3 pillars. So I've worked for teams that lost money, worked for teams that made a lot of money, but I run my teams like a business always. So if you're a season ticket holder and I make a mistake and the guy's making $3 million in the minors, guess whose money I just wasted? Yours. So a lot of teams don't run it like a business. My teams, we run it like a business. That's number 1. Number 2, my teams play an entertaining style. You can play boring hockey. My teams are never boring. It's one adjective you'll never hear in a sentence with me. My teams are not boring. We play an exciting game. We try to hit in all 3 zones. My teams fight. We try to score goals. We try to trade chances. I'll see a coach interviewed after a game, and they'll say, "How do you think the game went?" And he said, "It was great. We only gave them 2 scoring chances in the second and third period." And I'm like, those people paid a lot of money for those tickets. They saw 2 scoring chances? It's like watching 2 guys paint a barn. So my teams, we deliberately play an entertaining style. We charge a lot for tickets. We're not going to win every night. I want you to walk out of the building saying, this was a fun team to watch. Third is we're going to give back. my teams will be known, the trademark of my teams will be that we're going to give back to the community. So that's where it starts. I was raised that way. My primary things are I do a lot of work with the LGBTQ community. I had a son who was gay. I lost him in a car accident a few years ago. We do a lot of work in his memory. I do a lot of work for environmental causes. I'm a spokesperson for Ducks Unlimited Canada. I do work with Special Olympics, which I just love. That's probably the most fun I have. I do work with the Canadian military and first responders. I've been overseas to visit Canadian soldiers in the field 5 times. I signed up all 5 times to go to Afghanistan. Went to Afghanistan 3 times. The other 2 times we got grounded in Kuwait. And I'm missing one. Canadian Safe Schools Network, which is their LGBTQ component. So it's really important to me. The beauty of working in Canada is that hockey, it's probably, there's not a sport like it in North America. Like I remember someone's cell phone rang. See, if you're at a GM meeting, your cell phone rings, you get fined $100. So we find the unlucky bastard $100?
Yeah, it goes into the charity pile.
Yeah, buy some tickets, whoever it is. So to me, it's the profile. It's probably comparable to, I don't know, Premier League football in London, where everyone follows some team and everyone knows who the players are. It's not like that in the U.S. Like in Anaheim, I remember I used to shop in the same grocery store with Scott Niedermayer. Now here's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest defensemen that ever played the game, 4 Stanley Cups, and he could shop in complete anonymity in this grocery store. The only 2 guys that got bugged in Anaheim were Chris Pronger, because he's 6'11" or whatever he is, 6'6", and he's got a big space in his teeth, so he's distinctive, and Teemu Selanne, who everyone loves Teemu. They were the only 2 players that the people recognized. In Toronto, the 23rd guy on the roster, everybody knows. So I remember I was watching a Red Sox game years ago with Theo Epstein, who was the GM of the Red Sox at the time. And Theo said to me, "Are you me in Toronto?" I said, "Theo, I'm Teddy you in Toronto." I mean, my favorite story about getting recognized in Toronto doesn't even include me. My second year there, Dave Nonis was my assistant GM. He took over for me after I got fired. It's minus 25 or 30, and he's walking down Front Street at 1 in the morning going back to his hotel. It's deserted. There's nobody on the street, not a soul. As he's walking along, he hears someone yell, "Nonis! Nonis!" He looks, there's nobody. And he sees there's a guy sleeping on the steam grate above the subway. It's a homeless person. And he goes, "Nonis, when are you going to fix my Leafs?" like a homeless person. I was taking my kids to a Blue Jays game. I saw someone had a Blue Jays cap on here, or a t-shirt. There you go. I was taking my kids to a Blue Jays game, and there's a guy begging on the street. As I walked by, he says, "Going to see a real team, huh?" And I said, I draw the line at being taunted by a beggar. I stopped. Today I'm drawing that line. You have no right to taunt
Your
me.
mic's starting to go apparently, so I'm going to use that one.
Okay. So the profile it gives you, when I was in Anaheim, I was GM of the Anaheim Ducks. It was a great job, but no one knew who I was and no one cared. In Toronto, in Calgary, you're a recognizable person with an audience. And if you don't use that to do some good, to affect some change, then I think you're wasting the opportunity.
Yeah, you campaign for a lot of inclusiveness within hockey in Canada as well. Of course, it's something that's brought you to this side of the water this time with the Irish Ice Hockey Association, because they're trying to, promote the sport within Ireland, because we've got 1.5 rinks among 6 million people here, and obviously the model in Belfast has been very successful. What do you think we need to do to maybe take to the next step south of the border?
It's real simple. We got to build an arena, then we got to build another one, then another one. Like you look at where hockey is in the U.S. in non-traditional hockey markets, wherever they've built an arena, youth hockey springs up. And I said this example earlier in the day. When I was playing hockey growing up, there was no hockey in Texas. Nobody played hockey in Texas. Last year, there were 30 kids on Division I college scholarships from the state of Texas. So this is what happens when you build rinks, people start playing the game. It's the hardest game in the world to play. It really is. And you can argue all you want. You'll never win the argument with me. Well, you think about it. Every other sport, you got cleats on. You got basketball shoes on. You're on a floor. We all know how to run, right? Pretty simple, that part. Not in hockey. You got to do all that on a piece of steel. It's about 1/8 of an inch wide. Most sports, you hold the object of the game. It's a ball. You throw it, you catch it. Hockey, oh no, we're going to take it 1 degree away. You're going to have a hockey stick. And we're going to make it full contact just to make it interesting. So it's the hardest sport to play. And, it's just a marvelous thing it starts with ice. We need ice. It's that simple. We need more ice in Ireland.
Some of the guys in the audience tonight and elsewhere have sent in some Twitter questions for you using the hashtag AskBurke, other than the one person who put hashtag AskBurkey.
That's what everyone calls. If you call me Brian, I don't turn around. So in hockey, everyone goes by their name.
We'll do a couple of these now. Stephen Thompson asks, who's the best player that you've managed?
I get asked that a lot, and I've been really lucky. I've had some great players, so I think I'd have to say a couple names. I was fortunate enough to have Mark Messier play for me in Vancouver, and that was special. Marcus Naslund was special in Vancouver. Scott Niedermayer and Chris Pronger, both Hall of Famers. So I've been very fortunate that I've had some great players. So I'd say that would be the group, and I'm sure I've left someone out even there. Teemu Solani's in that group. He was a special player, special kid too.
And Philip Armstrong is looking to the future. Who currently in the Flames organization are you most excited to see develop and head into the future?
Well, probably the most we're excited about right now probably is Dougie Hamilton. Our GM pulled off a trade with the Bruins to trade for Doug Hamilton from the Bruins. And he's a 6'5", 228-pound right shot defenseman. And I mention right shot because right shot defensemen, I have no idea why, they're hard to find. For every good right shot defenseman, there's 3 good left shot defensemen. Don't ask me why. We actually did a study on this when I was the assistant GM in Vancouver, trying to figure out if it's because of dominant top hand. And what we could conclude, as near as we can tell, it's whatever stick he picks up when he's a kid, and he shoots that way. He's a right shot defenseman. He's 6'5", 228. Very high intellect, very good student. He's a 96 student, I think. Parents are both Canadian Olympians. I think he's the guy that everyone's most excited about. I don't do it. They're my tweets, but my oldest daughter does it for me because alcohol and Twitter do not mix. And I have been known to get in feuds with the media. And
we'll come to that later on.
I have a Twitter account. I don't follow anyone else. I know you're supposed to follow other people who have a Twitter account, but I don't. So I don't care. The players we're stuck with social media. It's my question is, what's going to be the next Twitter? There's going to be something worse than Twitter. Be something even more invasive and intrusive to the point where players have absolutely no privacy. Or privacy, as you say it over here, I think. My question is, okay, rule number 1 is alcohol and Twitter do not mix. Our players haven't all figured that out yet. Rule number 2 is, what's the next harmful, intrusive thing that's going to be worse than Twitter? I don't think anyone should give up beer.
I think that's probably a satisfactory enough answer, yeah. We've got that, yeah. Well, let's go back now to what we were discussing earlier on and head to Toronto this time, of course, with the Maple Leafs. You've been fairly vocal throughout your career in the media, and as you mentioned, you've had quite a few feuds, and you got a fair share of criticism for a trade with Boston for Phil Kessel. What happened with that deal?
Well, in Toronto, we were approaching price point fatigue with our tickets. We weren't a very good team. We had the highest ticket price in the league, and we weren't a very good team. And we didn't have any stars. I felt we needed to put a star in the lineup. And so I paid a very heavy price for Phil. Ended up being the 2nd pick overall, which we never calculated. We talked about it because as a GM, you have to talk about it. We thought we'd pick 8th or 9th. Turned out to be the 2nd pick and turned into a really good player in Tyler Seguin. But Phil Kessel scored 35 goals or 30 goals for the average around 30 for the Leafs on a so-so team with a right shot center. Never had a natural center. I'd do that trade again in a heartbeat. And yeah, we got a lot of criticism. my relationship with the media is I get along famously with most people in the media. I think there's a handful of real lowlifes, and I don't get along with them. And they don't like the fact that I criticize them publicly or take them on in front of I'll go on the radio and say this guy's an idiot. Well, they don't like that. They don't mind calling me an idiot, but they don't like being called an idiot. So my theory has always been, I looked at my contract very carefully. I'm a pretty good lawyer. Nowhere in there does it say that I have to take shit from the media.
Fair enough. Of course, you had massive success as a GM for the US national team at the Winter Olympics in 2010. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, we won a silver medal. That still bugs me. I mean, I will tell you this. You play for the gold medal, and if you don't win, it sucks. Like, you got to sit there on your bench and watch them get their medal, and they give you flowers. Like flowers. It's a friggin' hockey game. And these girls give you flowers. I'm like, I want a gold medal. I wanted to play them again. Like, Phil Kessel hit the crossbar in overtime. If you go back, we scored a late goal to force overtime with the Canadian team. And then they scored, Sidney Crosby scored a great goal. It's just one game knockout. We're not used to that. We play best of 7. And I wanted to play them again. I wanted to say, you bastards will play again tomorrow. And I bet you that knowing the Canadian team, I bet you they would have played us again. They would have. Even with the gold medal in their pocket, they would have said, we'll do this again. The Finns won the bronze medal, and they're out there dancing and waving. And we got to sit there and watch these guys get their gold medal. It sucked. It sucked. No, it is. And I say this obviously kidding, but this is right after the Canadian referee kicked the puck to Jerome McGinley, who then passed it to but I've gotten over it. I'm not bitter about that at all.
That's going to end up on Twitter tomorrow. You're aware of that?
No, but Billy McCreary was the referee, and Billy McCreary is too honest to do anything. So I joke with my Canadian friends that we lost to a great team on a great play. Like, I don't think there's any other player on the planet that could have scored that goal. Because Ryan Miller was our goaltender, and he hadn't poke checked. He's not a poke checking goalie. He hadn't poke checked in the whole tournament. And Sid had kind of a bad angle, and Ryan changed his grip just a little bit. No one in the building saw it. I didn't notice it until I watched the replay. He changed his grip a little bit. Now he's going to poke, because here comes Sid from here, and Sid rifled it right then, as soon as he saw him, because now there's a little space. Great goal. So, yeah, it was. I was proud of our team. We were picked to finish 6th in that tournament, and we ended up losing in overtime in the gold medal game. I was proud of our team. I've watched, in the 25 years I've been doing this, I've watched the evolution of hockey in Europe, how Switzerland has gone from a country with no players in the league to now 20 plus, how Germany has developed. The same thing's going to happen here. We just need to build some rinks. The same thing will happen here. If there was ever a sport that was designed with the Irish people in mind, it's hockey. So it's my great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Burke.